and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavor show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're turning our analytical lens toward the rural community of Ambridge, specifically focusing on the events of Sunday, February 1st, 2026. We are dissecting a fundamental tension that I think exists in every long-term partnership, but one that is really weaponized by the high-pressure environment of modern farming. And the central inquiry is this: is the health of a relationship defined by the grand gesture, the surprise cruise, the fought-for Valentine's dinner, or is it defined by what we might call quiet reality? You know, the pragmatic, low-stakes stuff, shared labor, accepting you're exhausted, and just making do.
Right. It's the collision between the aspirational version of love, the one we post about, and, the 9 p.m. on a Sunday version of love, where everyone is just tired. The source material gives us two couples, Pip and Stella, and Dave and Ruth, who are attempting to navigate this exact minefield. And I suspect, as usual, we're going to read the data quite differently.
I suspect we will. So to orient our listeners, I'm representing the position that relationships, particularly those crushed under the weight of relentless jobs and long commutes, they require intentional, curated experiences to survive. In this environment, entropy is the enemy. If you don't actively inject energy into the system, it just decays. The effort to escape the daily grind, that's the highest form of affection.
And I'll be arguing that true partnership is found in the integration of life's realities, not the escape from them. It's found in acknowledging exhaustion, sharing financial burdens, and honest communication about your limitations, specifically in this case, about phobias. I believe that so-called performative romance often just obscures a lack of genuine listening.
Okay, let's begin with our position statements. I want to start by framing the context of Stella and Pip. We see Stella commuting, getting stuck on the wrong side of Borchester, dealing with sat-nav delays, working a job that's described as relentless. In that environment, the farm and the commute will consume you if you let them. So my argument is that without these events, life becomes purely transactional. And when we look at Dave, we see a man determined to get a table at the Bull despite a fully booked sign. He's fighting against the mundane. When we look at Stella, her secrecy about the 2026 holiday plans, that's not evasion, it's the architecture of delight. She's trying to build a sanctuary of time away from the mud and the milkings.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. You call it the architecture of delight? I'd call it a failure of observation. My position is that this kind of aspirational romance often ignores physical and psychological reality. We have Pip, who is, let's be honest, terrified of the proposed grand gesture, and Stella, who is so exhausted she physically collapses into sleep before she can even talk about it. So for me, the most romantic moment in this entire text wasn't to plan dinner or a secret trip. It was Pip offering cheese on toast and just letting sleep. And with Dave and Ruth, I'd argue Ruth's initial suggestion to work the bar together to save some cash was a much more profound expression of their shared life than squeezing onto a stool at the bar for an overpriced beef Wellington. One is partnership, the other is a social script.
I'm not convinced by that, because it settles for survival rather than striving for something more. If you only ever do what is practical, the spark dies. But let's move into the core debate, starting with the psychological dimension. We have to address the most contentious issue here: the Northern Lights cruise.
Or, as I would frame it, the Northern Lights nightmare.
Well, let's look at the evidence objectively.
We have a conversation that Pip reports took place at New Year. The couple agreed that 2026 needed a proper holiday, and Pip explicitly stated a desire to see the Northern Lights. Stella, as the partner, is clearly listening to this desire. The suspicion that she's booked a cruise to Norway to cross the Arctic Circle that shows an immense level of planning, of financial commitment. She's trying to give Pip a big experience to counter the mundanity of farming. The secrecy, the refusal to confirm or deny, that adds to the romance of the gift. It's a classic romantic trope. I heard your wish, and I am making it reality. It shows she values Pip's dreams.
I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. And let me tell you why. If Stella has indeed booked this cruise, it proves she was listening to the champagne talking, as Pip puts it, rather than knowing her partner's deep-seated fears. I mean, the evidence of Pip's distress is overwhelming. She describes a recurring nightmare where she's trapped on Rex's narrowboat. She explicitly tells Hannah that she cannot handle the idea of sleeping in a cabin below deck. She's claustrophobic. If your partner is claustrophobic, booking them into a confined space in the middle of the North Sea isn't a gift, it's an imposition. It's a gesture that serves the giver's need to be seen as romantic, not the receiver's actual need for safety.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. You're conflating two very different environments. Pip herself admits her fears associated with a narrowboat, a tiny, cramped vessel. As Hannah correctly points out in the text, a cruise liner is bigger than a field. This is a cognitive distortion on Pip's part. So Stella is likely betting on the fact that the grandeur of the experience, the fjords, the lights, the sheer scale of the ship, will override a fear that's based on a small canal boat. I mean, that's what love often does. It pushes us out of our comfort zones. She's offering Pip a chance to conquer a fear, but in luxury.
Bigger than a field is a logical argument, sure, but phobias are not logical. That's the whole point of a phobia. And Pip rebuts that immediately. Yes, but this field is land. It's not sea. The terror is about being trapped below the waterline. You say love pushes us out of our comfort zones, but there is a very fine line between pushing someone and just ignoring their explicitly stated boundaries. Pip is so anxious about this gift, she's planning to ask Stella outright just to avoid the horror of opening the envelope on the 17th. That level of anxiety invalidates the entire romance of the surprise. A surprise that induces dread is a communication failure, not a grand gesture.
But look at the alternative. Pip suggests that maybe she just won't go, or they won't do anything. That leads directly to the atrophy of the relationship. If they don't go, they stay in Ambridge, they work, they get tired. Stella is taking a risk, yes, but it is a risk born of a desire to create a memory. The intent to delight is what matters here. She is trying to pull them out of the rut.
I have to disagree. Impact outweighs intent. If I buy you a ticket to an event that causes you to have a panic attack, my good intentions are irrelevant. Because I have failed to see you, I've seen a version of you I want to exist. The version that loves cruises, but not the person who actually exists. But let's pivot to our second point, which really mirrors this dynamic in the economic realm. The Valentine's dinner at the Bull.
Right. And here, we see Dave demonstrating the kind of persistence that keeps romance alive. He arrives at the Bull. He sees the special menu, venison, beef Wellington, classic high-quality dishes, and decides he wants this for Ruth. He's met with a fully booked sign. A lesser romantic, someone who's given up on the grand gesture, would have just shrugged and said, oh well, we'll get a takeaway. But Dave uses his social capital.
Introducing the Archer's mug, where elegance meets everyday comfort. Crafted from premium white ceramic, designed with vibrant peekaboo colors inside, simple, modern, and stylish. Start your day the Archer's way, with warmth, familiarity, and the comfort of voices you've come to love. As the stories unfold on the Archers, let this mug become part of your daily ritual, a small reminder of life in Ambridge. Practical for every home, dishwasher and microwave safe. Available in 2 sizes, 11 ounces and 15 ounces, designed to fit your lifestyle. Enjoy your favorite drink in a mug that connects you to Britain's most beloved countryside story, The Archers. For more information and to order your very own The Archers mug, follow the link below and make it part of your daily routine.
His relationship with his brother Kenton to force a solution. He rejects the idea of working on Valentine's Day. When Ruth suggests they could cover the bar, Dave insists that'll never happen unless we make it happen. He is fighting for the sanctity of the couple against the utility of the business.
That is a very charitable reading of what I see as chaotic planning and impulse buying. Let's just look at the timeline. It's February 1st. Valentine's is less than 2 weeks away. Dave hasn't planned this. He has stumbled upon it. He's at the Bull for Business, delivering Brookfield beef. He sees the menu and thinks, ooh, that's a good idea. I mean, this isn't some carefully curated expression of love. It's a reaction to a chalkboard. And the compromise. Kenton says, you'll have to sit at the bar. They're not getting a romantic candlelit table. They're getting stools where every local will be interrupting them to order a pint. It feels performative.
The location in the room is secondary to the act of securing the time. The bar stool detail is a minor concession. The major victory is that Dave refused to let the date slip by. You mentioned Ruth's suggestion that they should work the bar to save some cash. And while that's practical, it's also the death knell of romance. If every celebration gets converted into a shift to save money, you cease to be lovers and you just become business partners. Dave's insistence on being a patron, not a worker, is a necessary defense of their identity as a couple. He's saying, we are worth the price of the beef Wellington.
I just come at it from a different angle. Ruth's pragmatism isn't a rejection of love. It is an expression of shared goals. When she suggests saving cash, she's prioritizing their family's financial health, which is a long-term act of care. But more importantly, there's a disconnect between what they actually enjoy and what they think they should do. Dave wants the grand gesture because he feels he should take her out, but Ruth seems perfectly content with the idea of working together. They might have had a better time working the bar, joking with neighbors, and saving the money. The dinner at the bar feels forced, like they're just satisfying a social script.
I strongly disagree. And Ruth's reaction when Dave reveals he got the table is telling. She says, oh, they say romance is dead. She is pleased. She defends the idea of going out, saying, we have done some years. She wants to be courted. Even after decades of marriage, the desire to be treated as a guest, to be served quality food, that remains. And that is what Dave recognized, however late in the day it was. He understood she didn't want to be a barmaid on Valentine's Day. She wanted to be a wife.
She's pleased, yes, but she was also perfectly willing to pivot. It just shows her flexibility. But let's talk about flexibility, or the complete lack of it, in our third point. We need to move from the psychological and the practical to the physiological. This is the battle between the chicken and the cheese on toast.
This is where we see the heroism of Stella, and I will not hear otherwise. We have to look at the data. She's been stuck in traffic, faced a diversion, and arrives home late. She is, by all accounts, shattered. Yet, her first instinct is to maintain the ritual of the Sunday meal. She wants to chop an onion, get the chicken on. She refuses to even sit down at first. Why? Because she knows that the shared meal is the anchor of their domestic life. She's fighting her own exhaustion to serve the relationship. It's a noble, aspirational effort.
Noble, perhaps, but ultimately futile and, I'd argue, potentially damaging. This scene is a masterclass in the quiet reality winning over the grand gesture. Stella is in denial. She falls asleep mid-sentence. Pip is trying to ask her about the cruise, the single biggest topic in their lives, and Stella is unconscious. Acknowledging defeat, accepting they are knackered, is so much healthier. But we have to talk about the Kendall mint cake. This detail is the key to the whole thing.
The mint cake, yes. Found in the pocket.
It's a tragedy, I admit, but it shows commitment. Pip was willing to endure hunger to give Stella the chance to provide.
It shows dysfunction. It shows two people trapped by an expectation of what a good couple does on a Sunday. And the moment of true intimacy, the real victory, arrives when the pretense drops. Pip finally says, I'll bring you some cheese on toast. The chicken stays in the fridge, the onion remains unchopped. And the cheese on toast solution respects the body's needs over the social script. It's an admission that they are human, they are tired, and they don't need to perform domestic perfection to prove they love each other.
I will concede that the cheese on toast was the necessary outcome, but I mourn the loss of the chicken. The chicken represented normalcy. The cheese on toast represents a concession to the chaos. If they succumb to cheese on toast every night, the relationship loses its structure. That's why Stella fought so hard even if she lost this round. She knows that once you stop chopping the onion, you're just roommates.
But structure is useless if the participants are asleep. You can't build a relationship on sleep deprivation. And there's another layer to this infrastructure, which brings us to our fourth point, the role of the community. Neither of these gestures happens in a vacuum.
This is a crucial point for my argument. Romance in Ambridge requires a village. We see Ben playing chess with Rosie, which frees Pip up. We see Kenton engaging with Dave to secure the table. The community provides the scaffolding that makes the grand gesture possible. If Ben doesn't babysit, Dave and Ruth don't go to the bull. If the community doesn't function, romance dies. So relying on external structures like book tables is a sign of a healthy, integrated couple.
That's a compelling argument. But have you considered the fragility of that web? The material highlights how tenuous this support is. Josh is frantically busy. George is only just starting work. Pip says she and Stella don't see very much of each other. Relying on this complex web to force a date night when everyone is tired creates more stress than it relieves. Even the artwork viewing, that was basically a waiting room. Pip went to see it not out of a burning passion for art, but because she was killing time while starving, waiting for Stella.
But she enjoyed it. She said it was really lovely. That moment of aesthetic appreciation was a bridge. It gave her a moment of peace. And regarding the babysitting, Ben offering to watch Rosie is a seamless integration of family life that allows Dave and Ruth to escape. You see fragility, I see resilience. The community is stepping up to protect the romantic space.
It works this time, maybe, but look at the friction it causes. Ruth feels the need to hire bar staff so they can then babysit for Stella and Pip, but realizes she can't. It's a logistical nightmare. The quiet reality approach would be, everyone stays home, orders a pizza, and nobody has to coordinate 3 different households just to eat a beef Wellington on a bar stool. It just requires so much energy to maintain these appearances.
And that sounds like a very boring life. If we surrender to logistics, we lose the magic. So let's move to our conclusions, as we must bring this to a close.
After reviewing the evidence, my conclusion is clear. The grand gesture in this material is consistently shown to be at odds with the well-being of the characters. Stella's potential cruise ignores Pip's claustrophobia. Dave's dinner booking ignores their exhaustion. The most profound connection shown was Pip protecting Stella's sleep and Ruth prioritizing their family finances. True love in 2026 Ambridge is seeing the partner as they are, tired, claustrophobic, and hungry, not as a participant in a fantasy. The cheese on toast was the masterpiece because it was real.
I see the logic in that, but I maintain that without the attempt at the grand gesture, the relationship suffocates. Dave seeking that table, despite the odds, signaled to Ruth that she is still a priority. Stella planning a trip to the Arctic Circle signals to Pip that their life can be bigger than the farm. The execution may be flawed, Pip may be scared, Stella may be asleep, but the desire is the fuel. Without these gestures, life is just traffic jams, sat-nav delays, and eating old mint cake in the dark. The intent to delight is the only thing standing between them and drudgery.
And yet, we're left with a cliffhanger that embodies this entire debate.
Indeed, we know that Pip's birthday is on the 17th.
And we know there is an envelope coming.
So the question remains, when that envelope is opened, will it contain a dream trip that expands their horizons, proving the value of the grand gesture?
Or will it contain a claustrophobic nightmare that proves the giver was listening to the champagne and not to their partner? It creates a perfect tension between the intent to delight and the capacity to endure.
A tension that every couple must navigate. Thank you for listening to the debate.
Thank you.
So what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around.
So what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the arches. Any
Are you what we
movements
call Foley then?
kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the bull bar. That's
This one.
Yep. That's.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline. I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever